Hey everyone, so previously we covered the series configuration. In this video, we're going to go through the value labels configuration. Now, something to always remember is that series are always going to be aligned with the value labels. That's because value labels are essentially a part of series. So in case you want to enable them, you need to go under the series configuration. So for example, right here, right? We're going to choose the chart, formatting options. Let's go down to series configuration. And right here is a toggle to enable the value labels. Once you enable it, you can close this tab and you have a new formatting tab available for you. Within the report, as always, you have two views where you can go through already pre-built configurations, both for the combo and combo bar. But for us, what's important is going to be the training view. So we're going to build everything from scratch as always. First things first, as an instance of the combo visual, resize it a little bit, disable the background plus the title. And for the setup, what we're going to do is we're going to go for department. And on the second level, we're going to go for region. As for the series, we're going to go for payout, budget. And the third one, in this case, we're going to use difference. So in this case, what I'm going to be doing is I'm actually going to be stacking series 3 on series 1. The reason for that is because I want to have one stack to showcase you cumulative values, and I'm going to be using budget on a different cluster so that the series don't interfere with each other. So right here, I'm going to go down and choose stack 1. There we go. So we have them on top of each other. Now for series 2, which is the budget, I'm going to open that up. And I'm going to say that I want to make it on cluster 1. I'm going to drop it backwards so that it's behind the series. So I'm going to lower the display number for it. And for the two additional series, what I'm going to do is just a little bit of customization. So for the difference, I'm actually going to add also a little bit of outline so that I can see it. But I'm also going to lower the fill opacity to something like 20%. There we go. Now, something else we're going to do here is if we go back to the budget, so series 2, there we go. We're going to also create an outline for it. And we're going to also lower the opacity in this case to something like maybe 20%. So that gives us sort of an overview value there. Now, the reason why I set these series in this particular way is because I'm going to enable value labels for each and every one of them. So let's go through the series itself and enable the value labels. And third, there we go. Now for the third one, which was the difference, I'm actually just double check. Yeah, third one was the difference. So we're going to keep it there. For series 2, which was the budget, I'm actually going to position it differently. I'm going to say that I want to have it outside top. So there's a value right here. For the two additional series, what I'm going to do, I'm going to move the values in the center of the column so that the user can more easily distinguish them. So if we go to series 1, let's go here, inside center, there we go. And I'm also going to do the same thing for series 3, inside center, there we go. Now, first, when you look at it, you might get a little bit confused because you can see that this column is 4.23 million, this one is 6.48, and this one also is 6.48. That is because by default, what happens here, the values are essentially showing you the cumulative value. And this can be tested out relatively easy. So I'm just going to quickly disable the budget. And you can see now we have these two values. So essentially what happens here when you have enabled use total stack value, which can be found right here under series value labels, this setting. So what it does is it calculates the sum of the columns that are beneath it. So for example, since this is the first column, it showcases the exact value. In this case, it already starts to calculate the sum of the two. So you can see difference is 2.24 million, whereas payout is 4.23 million. So it just calculates the sum of it and shows it as a cumulative value. Now, in this case, this is not the expected behavior for my use case. So what I'm going to do here is for series 1, keep it as it is because I don't have any issues with it. For series 3, I'm going to do use total stack values, and I'm going to change it to false. What that essentially does is forces the chart to showcase the series specific value rather than a cumulative value. Once I've done that, I'm going to also go back to the settings and I'm going to enable the budget. So I have all three values. So what I have done here is I have individual values for each of the stacks, and then I have a total at the very top of it. And now, of course, you can also go through these settings and start to customize them. So for example, I know that budget is in a purple color. So I'm going to go right here on the background and change the color to purple. I'm going to also change the opacity to something like, for example, 90%. Black numbers are really hard to see in this font color, so I'm going to change these to be on white. There we go. You can also change a lot of other settings. The value labels by themselves have around 16 different settings for further customization. And if we go to the top of it, you can see that we also have an option to allow or disable vertical overlapping, which is a really useful tool when you have values that are really close to each other. The next setting is going to be use total stack values. So we went through this. It either allows you to show the series specific or the cumulative values. After that, you have your positions. So you have positions on both X and Y axis, label angles, so you can rotate them as well if you want to. It's not necessary, but in some cases, it actually helps you out in a little bit. So play around with the label angle if necessary. You have your border radius, which allows you to sort of like rounding up the corners of the background for it. So we can leave it at, for example, 21, because it looks like an oval now. So we can leave this. You have your label padding, so in case you want to add a little bit more space between the numbers and the background, you can increase this to achieve a better result. The font colors, font sizes, families, and styles is a regular font styling option for us. As for the background, you can see that by default, you have your background color, opacity, line, and line opacity. But if you want to go to something a little bit more exotic, you can also play around with the shadows. And for the shadows, you also have options of where you want to place them or not, and where is going to be the drop off, where it's going to be to the right, to the left, and so forth. So you have these customization settings. And last but not least are going to be the display units. So you can choose what is going to be the aggregation for the number. So for certain situations, I would say that for 90% of the cases, keep it in auto, because what that means is based on the values, it's going to choose the best option for it. Whether if you have a specific case where you want to always have, for example, in this case, I have millions everywhere. So automatically you can see in some cases I have millions, in some cases I have hundreds of thousands. So for those cases, I could easily go through the series labels and just force every single label to be shown into millions to have some sort of a cohesion there. So let's go here, also millions. There we go. So you can see now all the values are in the million aggregation. So these options plus some backgrounds, font stylings is what allows you to achieve more through it. And of course, just as a sample, go back to the combo visual. This is a sample we built just with a little bit more customization. And you can see that these are the individual numbers. Whether if we go to the stacked option, you can see that we only have one value label at the top, which shows you the total for the stack. And if you hover over it within the tooltip, you can still see the series specific options. So this is just something that you can play around and see what works for you best. All right, that's going to be for the value labels, and I'll see you in the overview.